Okay, so I'm going to do some talking here. I'm going to step away from the tractors in the shop and stuff and explain a little bit as to how this weather's going. We've had snow this week. We had about 6 inches of snow, and then we had about an inch of rain on top of that. And what that has left us with is an extremely wet field situation. Last year this time we were putting fertilizer out, not heavy, but we were just starting to get fertilizer out. Now my tanks are full. I've got 4 semi-loads of fertilizer, which is somewhere around, I don't know, I want to say 14,000 gallons of liquid nitrogen, 32%. I buy the 32% because I don't like buying water. Water causes a burn on the hay that I just can't tolerate. I like to, it's just the way it works. Even if you have heavy dew on your grass, when you spray it, that water, the fertilizer will mix with the water and actually cause a burn on the plant. So I'm not using anything below 32%. If I had all the fields like the one I'm standing in, if they were all in this condition, I would start to put nitrogen, potash, and ammonium sulfate down. I use ammonium sulfate for the sulfur side of it. There's a lot of different sulfur products out there, but none are as available as ammonium sulfate, and the amount of sulfur that you're actually putting on the soil or onto the ground is more readily available than anything else out there, except for possibly the wavy liquid material, and that is a foliar feed, but still you're only going to put, what, a pint to the acre, maybe a quart. I think it's a quart maximum, which is, what, 3 pounds? I think it might be 3 pounds to the acre. So with ammonium sulfate, it's 240021, or 210024. I'm backwards. So 21 nitrogen, 0 potash, 0 phosphate, 0 potash, and then 24 sulfur. So if you put 100 pounds of ammonium sulfate, you're going to get 24 pounds of sulfur, which will replenish your soil with sulfur. Now, why am I talking about sulfur? Why I never talked about sulfur much before, I have in the past couple of years, but never before, was because prior to 2007, there was a lot of sulfur in diesel fuel. And that sulfur that sulfur in the diesel fuel gets burned by the engine, goes into the atmosphere, and it falls onto our soil, which it basically is a free element that we would get. Well, after 2007, they went to literally no sulfur in the diesel fuel, and now I have to buy it. Now, sulfur is very important to plants, and so is copper, believe it or not, and a lot of people overlook the copper element, but copper deficiencies look bad. I've put copper in my fertilizer to put on the fields, and with great results. It's also a nitrogen binder. You don't want to put too much on, but you can bind the nitrogen just a little bit if you put the right amount of copper sulfate in. But sulfur on your soil is very important, so those nutrients are necessary. Now, with everything being saturated the way it is, it's very important that you know what you're putting on the soil, so fertilizer-wise, and what its charge is, what its potential to stay there is. Now, I could come out and mud in my nitrogen on here. I'm using a liquid nitrogen, so I think I'm a little bit better off than I would be than if I would have used urea. Liquid nitrogen, or uran solution, which is, I'm using 32% nitrogen, is a mixture of urea, ammonium nitrate, and water. Okay, so if you mix ammonium nitrate and urea together, there's a chemical reaction, and they fight. They don't like one another. They turn to snotty looking slime. So they add water to it, and that water turns it into a solution that is manageable. It will flow like water. It's a little thicker than water. It's a lot heavier than water at 32%. I think it's like 11.6 pounds per gallon. I think that's what the 32% is. I know 30% is 11.1 pounds per gallon. So it may only be like 11.3, whatever. That's irrelevant. So with urea, if I was to use straight urea, that's a positively charged molecule, that form of nitrogen, and the ground is obviously a negative charge. They will fight. It won't hold it. They're very volatile. You need a little bit of rain to wash it into the soil to get the full effect of it, and you're still going to lose it through volatilization. into the atmosphere, not running off the field. But if you're in a situation like we're in right now, where everything is so damn wet, and I put urea down, and we get 2 inches of rain, and you see the water flowing off the field, well, you can bet your bottom dollar that fertilizer is going right down the river. And it's going to end up down in the Delmarva Peninsula, out into the Delaware Bay, into the ocean. You don't want to do that. It's expensive. It's expensive, and it's bad for the environment. You really don't want to be doing that. So, of course, we use urea, and I got to put my glasses on because, man, is it bright out here today. So, I use ammonium sulfate. Ammonium sulfate has a positive charge, and I put that in with my potash, and so when I'm spreading potash, I get sulfur and potassium and a little bit of nitrogen, which will get this grass to green up. You can use it on corn, you can use it on soybeans. As a matter of fact, I would recommend everybody try ammonium sulfate on their soybeans for higher yields, if you want to do that. It's cheap enough, and the benefits outweigh the pros outweigh the cons with it. The cons are it's very acidic, and you may need to put some lime down after heavy use. Now, when we were growing corn, 1,000 pounds of ammonium sulfate to grow corn, you have to put 1,000 pounds of lime on just to equal it out. What else was I going to say about it? Oh, well, the liquid, when you mix ammonium nitrate and urea, you have a polarity switch, and it switches to the positive. As it dilutes out, it may switch. There's still some volatility, but it's not much. It's nowhere near what the volatilization of straight urea. So that's why I use liquid, and it's easier for me to handle. 4600. You can get a 25-ton load brought in and put it on your spreader, go out and spread it, and, watch it come off the field sometimes, depending on the weather situations. But anyway, it doesn't matter what we're doing right now, because it's too wet to do anything. Now, I've seen, not far from here, there's a fella, and I'm not going to say his name either, but he was chisel plowing. Chisel plowing in the mud. Do not do that. Park your tractor, work on your chisel plow, whatever, put new points on it, twist shovels, whatever you want to call them, do some service to your tractor, and wait for things to dry out. The most important thing about farming, and it's synonymous around the world, I could go and get the corn planter out and plant corn in this field today, if I want to. It's cold, it's damp, it's nasty, we're going to have snow, whatever. It's not right to do. It's not the right time. I see guys posting on Instagram and posting on YouTube channels. Well, I'm going to be planting corn on the 18th, whether no matter what. The 18th. For some reason, the 18th is the magic number out west, I guess. Here in New Jersey, there's guys that do the same thing. I'll be planting on the 15th of April. Well, good luck. Good luck with that. I'm going to give you a bit of information that will probably blow your friggin' mind. When is the best time to plant corn, soybeans, or whatever you're planting? Is it April 15th? Is it April 18th? Is it May 1st? Is it May 10th? Is it whatever? May 15th, I personally always seem to be getting into the field, and I always seem to get into the field around the 10th of May here. Now, my father, on the other hand, he would try to get it in as early as possible. I'll never forget him say, "Shallow up the corn planter, Wes. We're gonna get it in because we gotta get the corn in the ground because we're gonna plant soybeans, or we're gonna be making hay, and we don't want to be making hay when we're trying to plant the soybeans." And when you're young and you just do what your father says because he's your dad and you respect your father, and whether it's right or wrong, you do what he says. So I was victim to that, and then I grew up and did some research, and I realized that it doesn't matter if it's April 15th. It doesn't matter if it's April 18th. It doesn't matter if it's May 1st, May 5th, May 10th, May 15th. The only thing that matters when you're going to go out into the field is one thing. Is the ground ready? That's it. You can go out April 15th and mud it in, but you're going to have sidewall compaction and all kinds of crazy things. Now, on April 15th, if the ground is perfect and ready to go, you got it, buddy. Go for it. Here in New Jersey, it's a little more difficult than that, because we do have colder weather than in April than normal, you know, like western states or even western Pennsylvania. But I can honestly tell you, if you think that the day like April 18th or April 15th or, you know, whatever date it is, you're putting that corn or soybeans in the ground that day, come hell or high water, because that's the day we start, you're a fool. And I'm sure I'm going to catch some shit, because everybody thinks that I'm an arrogant son of a bitch. I'm just telling you something that is important and useful that can possibly just make you money, not take your money. You know, because if I went out and I put corn in this ground here, it is at the saturation point. I'll have sidewall compaction. I'll just, the closing wheels are just going to seal it off. I'll have it crusting over in erosion. It'll be a total mess if in a no-till situation. But if I wait until the weather's perfect, not the weather's perfect. Well, the weather has to be pretty good too, but the soil conditions have to be perfect. And I'm not saying the whole entire field has to be 55 degrees before you stick the seed in the ground. I'm talking moisture-wise. You know, moisture. If that ground is too wet, if the ground is too wet, you're better off waiting until it's too dry than putting it in when it's too wet. And, you know, if you're one of those guys that says, I got to be in the field by April 18th or I'm not going to plant 1 acre of corn, how's this sound? Take your worst field. April 18th, plant your best field, because you got to get in there. You want to get that best crop out of that field. Go to your best farm, your best field, and plant on the 18th. But then go to the worst field you've got. And I mean the worst field, the one you hate to even bother dealing with, the one you want to let the neighbor have because you hate it so much. You take that field and let it go and wait till the soil conditions are perfect, ready to go. They don't have to be perfect, but ready to go, where you say, you know what, in a couple of days it's going to be too dry. That's when you plant it, you know, and you stick it in there and tell me what you think. I guarantee you're going to come back and say, hey, you know what, that guy, he ain't such an asshole after all. But anyways, with that being said, I'm going to let you go, and that's my thoughts for the minute on OLF's channel. More than likely, I am going to plant some corn this year. Not a whole hell of a lot, but I am going to plant some corn because I'm sick and tired of being just a hay farmer. Just a hay farmer. And I'm not. I'm more than that. So I might as well use my talents and grow a hell of a field of corn and shoot the deer. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. And don't hate me. You gotta love it. Okay, so it's supposed to be spring, but I'm not really sure if it is or not. It's just not very nice weather. This is what, April 6th, I think, and yeah, kind of normal for April, I guess, to have swings. But we're expecting snow again tomorrow. I think tomorrow, and can't spread fertilizer on top of snow. That's kind of difficult. Or maybe it's tomorrow afternoon. I'm not sure. I've been up for a few hours today. Got a phone call this morning from the fertilizer plant, and they are full, and their regular orders that they normally do are not taking place because of the wet weather. They're dead. They can't get anything on the fields. You know, so there's a lot of fertilizer. Oh, there it is. Loads of fertilizer. So this is potash and sulfur, ammonium sulfate and potash, which it makes up a mixture of 565. Let me see. Hold on. I think I already did this. Anyways, it makes up the blend that I have in here. Let me get my paperwork out so I know what the hell it is. I think it's 565.8, right? When I put it on the field, it's going to be 865.10. So the analysis is 543.6. So 543.6 is what this is, but at 150 pounds to the acre, it's going to put 8 pounds of nitrogen. Doesn't sound like much. 8 units of nitrogen, 65 units of potash, and 10 units of sulfur. Now, we are sulfur deficient, if you didn't know. Everybody's sulfur deficient. They stopped burning coal, which had sulfur in it, and they stopped burning the diesel fuel, or took the sulfur out of the diesel fuel, so we just don't have the sulfur that we would normally have. Yeah, so we're sulfur deficient. So I got to buy it now. Ammonium sulfate seems to be the best way to get the amount of sulfur that you need to push your way through, push your crops to where they need to be. If you buy sulfur uran or sulfur-coated urea, you're only going to be putting 2 to 4 pounds of sulfur to the acre, and it's not available. It's bound, I guess. At least that's how it was explained to me. But ammonium sulfate, it's there, it's all there, and it's all ready to take up. So there you go. So it's been